everybody, this is the Wild Ass Podcast, and I'm your host, Wild Ass Craig. This is episode 18, and in this episode, I get to introduce all of you to Heather Wilson. Heather grew up in a world of motorcycles, with her dad not only being a racer, but also owning his own dealership. She started riding at the age of 5 and hasn't quit, even teaching how to ride, as we'll hear about later in this episode. Heather has a bachelor's degree in journalism and has worked in the motorcycle industry for over a decade. I first met her at the AIM Expo, where she was working with the AMA booth, helping them gain memberships. Let's learn more about her obsession with motorsports and about her 2 golden retrievers that we see so often in her social media pages. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
It's pretty cool getting connected finally. We've tried this for a while, but you are a little more organized than most.
Yeah, it seems like it has been a while since I've seen you at events too. So
yeah, it's you know what? Now that you say that, it's probably been a few years, huh?
It probably has, yeah.
Because with the closure of all the indoor events, I think that was probably one of the last times I saw you.
Yeah, probably so. We
met, if memory serves me correctly, and I was trying to figure out if it was Las Vegas or Columbus. Do you remember?
I don't know. It mainly is like coming up as a Americade too. Like, I don't know if I had seen you at the other places and then I finally talked to you at Americade, or I don't know, or if I had seen you at Americade and talked to you at AIM Expo, but we obviously kind of floated around to some of the same events for a number of years.
Yeah, and it's funny, I always refer to us as carnies, so that's where I've met most of my friends, is at events and doing different shows and different things, because yeah, you travel show to show and you start looking at people going, hey, didn't I see you there? But I remember the AMA booth because I was signing up Renee's kids.
Oh, yeah.
For memberships, because mine had memberships forever. And that was the deal. I was signing up them, and we just got to talking, and we just kind of hit it off, and we've stayed in touch ever since. So it's been very cool. And I'm super happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Have you listened to the show before?
A little bit. I don't always find the time to listen to podcasts. I tend to stay pretty busy with work, and then if I'm not working, I'm usually outside walking the dogs or riding motorcycles. So
yeah,
that tends to tie up a lot of my time.
It's just fine. I know more people that don't listen to podcasts than I know people that do.
But podcasts are so popular, and I feel like everybody has, well, a lot of people I know have so much success with them. So clearly people are listening. I just don't always take the time. I like to work in silence, which is weird for a lot of people. But when I'm writing content, I can't have like any background noise, not a TV, not a radio, anything. So
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Silence for a lot of the day.
Yeah. So the premise of the show, basically, everybody like yourself, all these people that I've been fortunate enough to meet, I just want to share your stories with the rest of the world. And if nothing else, keep them in a vault, so to speak, where everybody can go access them at any time. So I'm super glad you came on board. And that's what we want to do, is just kind of get your story as we continue our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That being said, the bio that I read, just real brief, you grew up riding. You started riding at the age of 5. Do you remember your first motorcycle? And what was it?
I don't know that I remember it that much, but I know that I had a PW50, which I feel like is everybody's kind of starter bike. So yeah, I just kind of progressed from there. And then I think it was kind of a mix of things. It was like a Kawasaki 70, I want to say, and then just kind of kept progressing up to a TTR 125, TTR 230. Then I started riding KTMs as I got older. My dad's a KTM and Husqvarna dealer, but those are kind of harder bikes to learn on when you're younger, just because they're so race prepped. So I kind of had a variety of bikes growing up.
Yeah, like you said, they're hard to learn on. And I've watched so many parents ruin their children's riding by getting them straight onto a KTM.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to find the right bike to start on, and then also find the right person or entity to teach people how to ride. I've seen that go wrong in a lot of scenarios. Just family, learning from family isn't always the best.
Right. And when I say that, as I say it out loud, I'm like, wait a minute, I am in no way saying that KTM is a bad motorcycle. I actually think it's probably the best, but you don't take a beginner and put them on a race bike. It's like taking a driver and putting them in a Formula One car and saying, okay, we're going to teach you how to drive now.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
It just doesn't work that way. So your dad's dealership, he still owns it? I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, it's called Wheel Sports in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. So just central Ohio area. But this is actually his 45th year of business. He started it after he graduated high school and has been running it ever since. It's him and my mom running the dealership day to day. So it's a pretty big accomplishment because not a lot of dealers make it that many years, especially under that sole ownership. They get sold a lot of times or, it's generational. So just been him for 45 years.
That's cool. Is it going to be yours one day? Is this in the plan?
Everybody always asks that, and it's definitely been a consideration in my mind over the years, especially the last few years. But I'm really enjoying what I'm doing as far as motorsports communications and marketing, and I like being able to pick up my laptop and travel and work from anywhere, but I can have Wi-Fi, so not being tied to retail and it's large overhead, right? He owns the building, the land, and all that inventory, whereas I own my laptop. So There's just a lot of considerations that, I know I would love it, but I also am enjoying the flexibility and the lifestyle that I have now. So I think I'll probably just continue on in this path.
Sure. And plans may or may not change, and that's okay. That question popped into my mind as we were talking about it, because I met your dad at bike night at the AMA offices, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And got to hang out and visit with him a little bit. That was pretty cool, but I wasn't sure if he still owned it or not. So that's why I asked the question.
Yep, he still does.
Cool. What kind of racing did he do?
So he did a lot of off-road racing. I mean, he kind of did a variety of everything when he was younger. Before I was born, he did anything from motocross to dirt track to enduros and hare scrambles. But when I was growing up as a kid, mostly it was enduros. So we would all load up in the box truck pretty much every weekend and go racing. My mom, my dad, my brother, and I. And we were always pit crew for him, running around at the enduros to the different gas stops. Ohio is a really big motorcycle state in general, but also for off-road riding. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of private land that clubs own and host private events on. So that's how we spent a lot of our weekends growing up. And if we weren't in the box truck kind of traveling to the races, then we were in the motorhome at the motorcycle club grounds in Southern Ohio that my dad belonged to, camping and riding motorcycles as a family. So that's kind of how I grew up.
Did you race as well?
I did not. I just rode for fun. I didn't really start getting into competition stuff until the last couple of years with riding family enduros here in Ohio, which is kind of like the level under the big enduros. So just kind of working my way up. But I just enjoy riding for fun. I don't really like the pressure of riding with a bunch of people on the track.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you did and what you did. So not racing, then that certainly changed the order, or not the order, but which motorcycles you had, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You talked about, everybody started with the PW50. I think that's probably pretty accurate. There's not much else out there that's as easy to learn on as the PW50. But you had the TTR 125, which is a phenomenal bike, the 230.
Yep.
What bikes have you had that led you up to, and what are you riding now?
I think after the 230, gosh, you're testing my memory here a little bit. I think I had a 250 XCFW KTM, and then from there, I have my most recent bike, which is a KTM 250 Freeride. And I constantly tell people I'll never get rid of that bike. I think it's a 2016 was the last year that they imported them from Europe. They still make them, but not every motorcycle gets imported over here. So mine's, a two-stroke gas. A lot of people think the Freerides are all electric, and they do make those, but that's not the one that I have. So I'm still rocking my Freeride. I absolutely love it. And I know so many other women that love it too, because it's a smaller bike. It's built on an 85 chassis, and it's just got a lot of torque. It'll pull you up pretty much any hill with minimal effort. It's really, really light. So if you drop it, it's super easy to pick up. It's a little bit shorter, because we all know KTMs can be really tall. So I really love that bike for off-road riding. And then as far as street bikes, I've had a couple of those as well. I had a KTM 390 Duke, then I upgraded to the KTM 690 Duke, and most recently I got the KTM 690 Enduro, so I could do a little adventure riding, and I'm loving that. My fiance and I have been doing a ton of adventure riding this year.
Well, that's cool. I'm just super intrigued by the 250 free ride.
Yeah.
Did you say it's a 250 two-stroke?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On an 85 chassis?
Yep. Wow. And so pretty much for years, when I've been going to events, riding national dual sports and stuff all over the country, it is a bike that definitely gets attention because people don't see a lot of them, and people always come up and are asking me questions about it, and I always offer to let them take it for a ride, and they're like, really? You'll let me ride that? I'm like, yeah, just come back with it, you know? It always does get a lot of attention, though.
Yeah. What size tires does it have? What size wheels?
Oh, gosh.
Know? It's not 85 wheels, is it? Is it
No.
probably equivalent to the big wheel?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's cool because people can't see you, obviously, but you're not a big girl. So that seems like the perfect bike for
I like it
average
because
to shorter than average riders.
Right. And it's kind of crazy. I came across this stat a couple years ago. Like the average height of a woman is actually 5'4", which is crazy, but I'm 5'6". So technically I'm taller than average for a woman, but I still tiptoe on a lot of these bikes, right? And so with experience, you can kind of do that. You don't always have to flat foot on a bike, but definitely like my recommendation for beginner riders is always better to have a bike that you can touch on until you're a lot more experienced and can handle that. So
that's cool. You're not married, correct? You're engaged.
Nope, fiance. Yep.
Okay. Remind me of his name.
Doug.
Yep. And I had it, and I didn't write it down, and I knew I should have.
Okay.
So the two of you ride together.
Yeah. So kind of funny story about how we met too. And there's a little tie-in with you living in Minnesota because that's where he was born and raised, was in Minnesota.
Yeah, I remember that.
And when I met him, he was living in La Crosse, Wisconsin. We've been together 7 years now. And I transplanted him to Ohio, which some days he enjoys and some days he really regrets. But naturally, we met at a racetrack and kind of just dated long distance for a year. And then he moved to Ohio. But he has his own ATV suspension business. So we both kind of work in the industry and are both self-employed, which has been really nice the last couple of years because we can kind of pick up and travel more or, you know, change our schedules on the daily when we want to. But he bought a KLR from my former coworker, and I thought he was just going to flip the bike because my former coworker couldn't get it running, and I knew Doug would be able to fix it in no time. But he ended up just taking it for a ride after he fixed it within, 5 or 10 minutes and was like, actually, I think I'm going to keep this. This thing is so comfortable. So he's been riding the heck out of it this year with me riding the 690 Enduro. And I'm trying to think, well,
yeah, where all do you go?
You
do some adventure riding, so you're actually off-road, which that
a
doesn't
bit,
surprise me with your, how you grew up. You'd probably be off-road more than on-road.
Yeah, I would say there are a couple events like I love to go to every year, and then I love to try some different ones out. But one that we've been going to for the past several years is Land Between the Lakes National Dual Sport down in the Kentucky-Tennessee border. So we take our dirt bikes down there and ride our dual sport bikes. And then from there, I went up to New Hampshire for a motorcycle safety conference, and he came up a couple days later with our toy hauler and our adventure bikes. And we did some riding in New Hampshire just last month. So not that long ago, but, it was fall and the leaves are starting to change and stuff. And we constantly joke that we're like 100 years old because we're always like, oh, look at the foliage. But I mean, we enjoy that. And we rode in New Hampshire, and then we went to New York on the way home, kind of to split our drive up, and rode there as well. So we do get to kind of travel quite a bit, and I enjoy that.
That is great. So with ATV suspension, how does he do that from the road? Or is it a slow time of year for you?
It's a slow time of the year right now because the race season just ended, I guess, in August. So people are usually out of money from the race season. They've spent all their money traveling everywhere and are kind of taking a break from it. And just about now through March, they'll start tearing down their machines and pulling their suspension off to ship it in. So yeah, the fall is kind of a slower time for him, but it also seems to be a busier time for me the past couple of years with work. So
sure. So
again, it's just nice that I can take my laptop and go.
Yeah, talk about that, your work. So you have a degree in journalism. When I met you, you were with the AMA. What's been your work? Yeah, your work history and what's led us to where you are now.
Yeah. when I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher my entire life. That was like all I wanted to be. And when I was like a junior and senior in high school, I was on yearbook and journalism club and all that stuff. And a couple of my teachers told me that I was a really good writer. And I was like, okay, so I don't know how it kind of came about. I feel like you're just kind of given some talent sometimes and you got to run with it. But I decided to pursue journalism school at Ohio University, which is one of the top 10 journalism schools in the country. Got into that program and then decided that I wanted to tie my love of writing with something else that I was passionate about. So that kind of naturally became motorcycles. I moved to California after I graduated college, began working for the Motorcycle Industry Council, Motorcycle Safety Foundation, the organizations under that umbrella in Orange County, California. That was kind of a giant leap of faith. And I always say that, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So it was a lot harder once I got out there. I didn't really know what I was getting into. California turned out to not be my vibe. And I would still stand by this to this day, that like it was a great experience. I'm glad I did it, but I also found out that I didn't want to live in California long term. So after a year, I moved back to Ohio, started working for the AMA, kind of grew in different roles there over the years, anything from writing for the magazine to the director of member activity when I left, kind of overseeing recreational riding and volunteer activities. And then I decided to pursue owning my own business, doing motorsports communications and marketing. So I guess that was like the start of last year. It's been about a year and a half now.
Has it
which
been
is
that
crazy.
long already?
Yeah, time flies. And I've been very blessed with, work just kind of finding me. So, I do a little bit of marketing of myself, but just in general, referrals are huge. And I'm sure you can attest to that with your business as well. Just talking to other people.
Absolutely.
Definitely kind of fuels your business.
Yeah, it seems like it's weird that it's been a year. Just
yeah,
crazy
it's
to me.
crazy.
So explain what you're doing now, because it seemed to me like there was some LinkedIn stuff, there was Facebook type stuff. Did you do? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. No, not the LinkedIn stuff anymore. That was kind of a business I kind of set on the shelf for a while. I was helping people kind of redo their profiles, again, kind of under that writing umbrella. But now I'm just focused on motorsports, communications and marketing, and not just in motorcycling, but, ATV racing, snowmobile racing, truck and side by side, kind of have clients in various segments, anything from working with individual racers to help them with their racer resumes, to get sponsors, all the way up to, manufacturer level clients and aftermarket clients, event organizers. So again, I kind of go back to the writing is kind of the core of it, but writing press releases. So doing a lot of race recaps after, the race weekend. So kind of recapping what happened, sending it to media outlets or sponsors on behalf of the teams and the riders. So that kind of keeps me busy during the race season. It's getting kind of quiet now.
So would that be, excuse me, what people would refer to as copywriting?
Yeah.
When you
it's kind of in that same segment.
Stuff like that?
Yeah. Copywriting tends to be a little more like marketing or advertising focused, like website copy, but this is more like, I guess, news or informational.
Okay, because press releases seem like you'd be an advertisement at the same time, like constructively combining news and marketing in the same piece.
Yep.
So you just saw something that people needed and went for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, having been in the industry all these years and having relationships in the industry definitely helped. But I've also had like a lot of great mentors who have helped me over the past couple of years. And, I'm always still learning. Like I'm always open to learning and getting better and perfecting my craft. So, this last year I've had a couple people that have really like taken me under their wing and helped me kind of grow in projects with them as well. And that's been really fun to learn. So.
Very cool. You talked about teaching. You wanted to be a teacher. Were you thinking like school teacher kind of teaching?
Yeah. So that kind of comes back into play because, I wanted to be a teacher for my whole life, but then kind of went this other direction with journalism. But where I've kind of been able to, once again, meld those passions together is teaching motorcycle classes. So I kind of get the taste of teaching workshops or, teaching people how to ride. but it's also in the motorsports industry. So I live in Ohio and I'm a chief trainer for the MORE curriculum in the state of Ohio. And then I'm also an MSF certified instructor. And so I train, not only teach people how to ride, but I also train the instructors in the state curriculum. So that's kind of another part of my job. I'm a contractor with the state doing that.
So you say, it's funny because exactly where I'm leading you is where you're going. What is the MORE curriculum?
Yeah, that's Ohio's proprietary curriculum. So a lot of states will have, MSF is kind of the nationally recognized brand that people refer to because it has been around for decades and decades. But some of the states started developing their own curriculum. So Ohio has open source curriculum. So they develop their own, there's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of, small differences just in how it's taught and how the exercises run. So I actually teach both curriculums, but I train instructors in the MORE curriculum.
Okay. I saw something recently, and I don't remember if it was Facebook or Instagram or what it was, but you were looking for people for next year. What was that for 2023?
Oh, yeah. I'm looking into opening a training site. So basically, you become a grantee of the state. So to find a facility where I have a large paved area that I can teach motorcycle safety classes and kind of run it as a site. Rather than just being an instructor, you're basically coordinating the instructors and the students, and it's just a different kind of role.
Okay. Yeah, I that popped into my head that I remembered seeing that, and I remember.
Yeah, I'm just kind of exploring that road. It's not a done deal by any means, but just kind of starting to see, around here where there are, parking lots available that can meet the specs, and so people can have better access to training and not have to drive an hour to get to training.
Speaking of that, I'm a huge advocate of continued training. I mean, I think people need to take classes. I don't care how good of a rider you are. You can always take a class and be better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in Ohio. I'm in Minnesota. Is there one place that anybody can go to find out where there's training near them? Because
yeah, I mean, I would recommend starting with your state's BMV or DMV, however your state calls it. I know everybody's different. Or Department of Public Safety. They should all have information on where you can find motorcycle training in your state. And when we're talking about that, I mean, that's street bike specific, right? To get your license. I mean, dirt bike training is a whole other side of things that's, not offered by the state. But as far as learning to ride a street bike and getting your endorsement, starting with your state's BMV, DMV, Department of Public Safety, you should all have information. And, most states provide the bikes for you. Some even provide loaner helmets, and they're pretty affordable classes. In Ohio, it's only $50 to take a class, which is, 2 days of riding and some classroom time. So it's very reasonable.
That's ridiculously cheap. Can you come there from out of state and take the class? Or do you have to
be
an
I believe
Ohio
so.
resident?
Nope.
Okay.
You can come here. Yep.
Crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't know if it had to be in your own state.
I think there might be a little more complication in, getting the curriculum credit to transfer between states, but I've definitely known people, especially bordering states, that have done it. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. So you're teaching that. You kind of have come full circle back into your high school dream that way, connecting everything with the world of motorcycles that you love so much. It looks like we blew through all of your notes just that fast, with the exception of one thing: those golden retrievers that we see all the time on Facebook.
Yeah.
Everywhere we see you, there's golden retrievers. Tell us about those.
Yeah. My dogs are kind of like my children. I don't have any human kids yet, so they are definitely my babies. They obviously work with me day in and day out, provide lots of laughs throughout the day, and they pretty much go everywhere with me. If I'm running an errand or I go out for lunch, they're going for a ride along in the car. And my family's a big dog family, so even family meetups, we always have our dogs with us. So yeah, they're kind of always around, and they keep me on my toes too. So they are both special needs. My one golden retriever is 7. He has epilepsy. He's had that for going on 4 years. So it's really nice to be able to work from home and keep an eye on him and be there when he needs me. And then my other one, we just joke, is batshit crazy. So he's just wild, but a lot of fun as well.
And how old is that one?
He's 5, but he acts like he's 1. So I don't know when he's actually going to mature.
Right. Should be growing out of that soon.
Yeah, he's crazy.
That's awesome. Dogs are great. I think that covers just about everything. That leads me to the 5 questions. And if you haven't listened to the show, you don't know what these 5 questions are all about, do you?
I don't know the 5 questions. I feel like back when you were doing like your Facebook Lives, back when Facebook had that capability to like interview people, I feel like you asked 5 questions then.
Maybe I did. I don't remember, but I'm going to now. So the 5 questions are basically, obviously there's no wrong answer. I ask these questions. They're designed to make you think. Some of them are totally outside the box. You won't expect them. And they're great because I love the different responses. And I've also had to stop repeating the questions because some of my listeners have been having planned answers, which is which is not fair. So then we'll just go right with our 5 questions. Are you ready?
Sure.
Question number 1, kind of a 2-part question. What is the best or most worthwhile investment you have made that could be money, time, energy, or any other resources? And how did you make that investment into motorcycling?
I think, oh gosh, I don't know if this is an investment per se, but like I try to make sure that I still have time to go riding, even owning my own business. So that was like one of the things I wasn't willing to compromise on, is working so much that I didn't get to enjoy riding. So if there's an especially nice weather day, especially towards the end of the season here, to go ride, and I don't have anything that has to be done that day, client work wise, I clear my schedule and go for a ride.
So time, yeah, that's a great one. And I think that's one thing that most people in this industry lose is their actual riding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think you can
I would
relate
say,
to that.
yeah, absolutely. Working in the office prior, like I didn't ride as much, and I was traveling for work, and then I didn't get to ride. The pandemic actually kind of helped me get back into riding because I wasn't traveling as much. So I got to just stay closer to home and do more riding that way. And then from there, I've just kind of made it a priority to go ride when I have the time. And my grandpa is 80, and him and his best friend do a lot of street riding and even adventure riding. And so I'm on their text distribution now with the group. Whenever they go for a ride, I get the invite. And so I get to enjoy time spent with my grandpa, who blows my mind because he's 80 and you would not know it, like, at all.
That is
it's a lot of fun to go riding with him. Keeps them young, for sure, staying active.
So cool. Question number 2. What is the best advice you have gotten as a motorcyclist?
As a motorcyclist? I think just to, do your own thing. Don't worry about what other people have or you're lacking as far as whether it's gear or equipment for your bike or, whatever it is, do your own thing. And you don't always people like to say, oh, well, you need to have this part or this accessory or whatever. Do what's best for you and don't listen to all the advice that you're given. Take it in, but then really evaluate if that's going to be best for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Number 3, what purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
That is a really tough one. I feel like I need to open my calendar and look and see what I've done. Oh, gosh. $100 or less. I feel like it's got to be an experience or something. Because physical goods are expensive. I feel like hardly anything I buy is under $100 these days. I don't know. What keeps coming to mind is that's silly, but going into a state park in New York, and we went on this little waterfall tour that we found on Google Maps, and you had to pay to get in the state park a couple bucks. So that was pretty cool.
So you had to buy a ticket? So that could be your purchase? Yeah.
Well, not all state parks are free. In Ohio, they are, which I was really spoiled. But you go to other states and you actually have to pay admission into the park.
I didn't know that either. I think in Minnesota, they're not free.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's a good answer. If you could have one, this is number 4. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
I feel like get involved. Like, I'm really big on being involved in causes that I care about in the community. So, I volunteer a lot of my time for the 4-H program, in addition to, working in the motorsports industry, which I've certainly volunteered a lot of time in as well. But yeah, just encouraging people to like get involved. And, I always tell people they don't really have a right to complain if they're not willing to be part of the solution. So if there's something that you want to see better, like be a part of making it better.
That's a good one. And get involved would speak to many things these days, for sure. Yeah, that would be great. The last of the 5 questions. What is your favorite non-motorcycling hobby?
I feel like that one's pretty easy for me, is taking the dogs on a walk.
That's exactly what I would have expected. And it should be easy because it's your favorite.
Yeah. I mean, we have our usual spots around here that we go to for a quick walk. But like I was saying with the parks, we're blessed with a lot of different parks, whether it's county, state, national, whatever, in Ohio. So I like to kind of go out to different places, especially I feel like this fall I haven't as much, but I know when it comes springtime and I've been cooped up all winter because I'm not a cold weather walker. I hate being cold. I'm always itching to get out, and I try to make time to start my day with a walk with the dogs and maybe even meet up with some people to have some conversation. I feel like when people want to meet up, they always want to go for a meal, and I've tried to kind of steer people towards like, hey, let's go for a walk instead of meeting for lunch or something.
That's a good idea. So you're not trying to talk with food in your mouth.
Well, and then, like, it doesn't always have to be spending money too. So, I mean, Going out to eat is expensive, and just to see each other, we don't always have to spend money. We can just hang out and go for a walk. Yeah,
no, that's great. I haven't thought of that, but yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. Do you have any asks or requests of listeners of my show?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to the billboard question is, my ask is just for people to get involved in things that they care about, whether it's motorcycling or charities or other causes that they care about, to like just take one step today and go get involved in something. And it doesn't have to be a huge time commitment either. Like, you can donate as much or as little as your time and or money as you want, but just being involved will make a difference.
For sure. Every little bit helps.
And then I guess if they want to connect with me on social media, I'd love that as well. They can find my business, High Gear Success, on Facebook, as well as highgearsuccess.com, and then connect with me from there.
We can do that. That was what I started to say. I always get these 2 questions mixed up where we should put them. It's your last parting words and where can we follow you. So let's do the where can we follow you, because you started that. High Gear Success on Facebook.
Yep. Or highgearsuccess.com will also kind of get you to all my social media channels.
Okay.
I feel like with a name like Heather Wilson, if you try to search that on Facebook and find my profile, it's going to be kind of difficult to find. So
it might be, yeah.
Probably best to start with my website and then go from there. But yeah, I love meeting new people online and staying connected that way. Yeah,
so I'll put a link to highgearsuccess.com in the notes of the show. Mm-hmm. That way everybody reach out. Let her know you're coming from the Wild Ass Podcast. It's always cool to put people together, and I would be happy to put somebody that needs your services in touch with you, and happy to make a cool introduction. So, do you have any final parting words?
I don't know.
This is always a question. Like, I've been asked this on shows before, and I never really thought of it. But it's like, I've asked a few people that do a lot of these shows, and they know exactly what to say, and it's like, oh, yeah, okay, now I know what that means. Yeah. Words that people will remember you said to them.
You ask all these very tough philosophical questions, I feel like. I guess I just want people to know that I'm always happy to help. And if you see me on social media or even out in the world, don't be afraid to come up and say hi and introduce yourself. I see and meet a lot of different people. I'm terrible with names, so I'll tell you that right now, but I do remember faces pretty well. So definitely, if we've met online or, we meet in person, just give me a shout.
There you go. I'm guessing your picture's on your website. So folks, go to highgearsuccess.com, make yourself an introduction, If you guys like what you're hearing on this show, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. You can follow the adventures on Facebook or Instagram by looking for The Real Wild Ass. Of course, I am Wild Ass Craig. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks. And of course, thank you again, Heather, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much.